So tell us why CTV is such an interesting category for Molson Coors at the moment. What are you leaning into? What's really got you excited about the space?
I would say for us, it's a combination of following where the consumer is going, and so ultimately brands, and if you're in anywhere touching the media part of the business, you need to have a visibility to or knowledge of where consumers are spending their time, and CTV is obviously beyond a new trend. Today, it's now, I would call, the mainstream place, especially where younger consumers consume content. And what's emerging is more on the ad-supported side of CTV, where more and more opportunities for us that didn't exist a year or 2 years ago. Things like Netflix, obviously, is still in its new infant stages on this space. But the other part that's really interesting to me as relates to CTV is the area of custom content, and looking for ways at which we can actually create our own content that's meaningful to consumers, because these content providers are in desperate need for high quality content. They're more and more willing to partner with brands where we can actually create things with them in a way that's both meaningful to us as well as driving business value to the consumer.
And you're thinking about classic branded events, contests, sport
No, I'm
programming?
thinking about like long form content, like creating new series, right? Like really partnering with them at the production side of the world. I think more and more of the CTV companies are looking for brands to help fund the actual content itself. And if we can have a seat at the table all the way up front in the development stages of that content, where the output of that is something that may feature our brands or is tied to a cultural connection that we want to make, so create some borrowed equity off of, more and more of those opportunities are becoming available because as I said, they're just in desperate need to create content because there's so many places now today to do that, and they're looking for brands to fulfill some of that work.
So I guess the old cliche is that just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Sure.
What excites you about that opportunity versus, say, traditional ad pods and spots?
Well, I think traditional advertising is somewhat, in many ways, obsolete in a lot of spaces. I think as consumers learn to find ways to skip ads or have availability to skip ads, they will skip ads. And so I think it's a CTV and content in general where we have the opportunity to embed ourselves in the stuff that people and consumers are seeking out. There's way more opportunity for our brands to show up in the right moments and opportunities. So I'm not saying there's not a space for traditional advertising, but I think it's becoming less and less of a priority for most brands that are trying to attract new consumers to their...
It's a really interesting opportunity to focus in on, because obviously one of the characteristics of the CTV space is its data.
Sure.
It's a hugely data-rich space, and we often hear marketers talking about embracing that part of the opportunity, but the branded content piece comes up less often. Why is that?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how those marketers are thinking about CTV. I can say that for us, it's a combination of both. At the end of the day, we need to measure the value of any of the places we place our dollars to just make sure it's driving the whatever KPIs we set out to achieve. However, the opportunity is when the real magic happens when we can create something of meaningful value that the consumer wants to seek out. And to me, the content itself is that untapped opportunity. It's almost like harkens back to the history or the creation of advertising in a lot of ways, where you saw brands really funding TV productions and finding ways inside the content. I think that's now the new, with so much fragmentation in this space, I think there's a lot more opportunity for brands to do that type of work.
So the other big phenomenon that everyone is talking about, of course, at the moment is retail media.
Yeah.
Give us your take on that space. What does it offer to a brand like yours?
I would say, there seems to be a new retail media network born every minute. So It's just trying to stay on top of that. In a regulated industry such as ours, there are limitations on what we can do in retail media. So in the alcohol category in the US in particular, we're not allowed to provide anything of value to a retailer. It's actually against the law. And so where we play a role when it comes to retail media is in the area of third parties, more specifically. And so we work with the Instacarts of the world, or the Uber Eats, or the DoorDashes, where we have opportunity. And so I do think the real value of retail media comes when really being at all the, wherever consumers want to shop for a product, our brands need to show up there, and we need to make our brands look as attractive as we can in any format. And so retail media's value to me is just making sure in those avenues, no matter where it is, our brands are showing up in the right way, that there's consistency, that the attributes are coming through in a positive way and meaningfully. And retail media is designed to allow us to do that as well.
So all of this requires change on the part of marketeers. You're having to build out new capabilities, your relationships with your agencies change. How has it changed the way that you operate the marketing function within the business?
Well, it's somewhat, I would say, fundamental from a structural standpoint. And I've been at Molson Coors now for 15 years. A big part of the first part of my career there was in media, and mostly traditional media, and the way we bought media was very traditional. My role has changed and evolved over time, and now I oversee media, I oversee e-commerce, I oversee retail media, I oversee data strategy. All of those things are combined because I think that is by design as a way to understand the fact that consumers look through the multiple lenses, and having a purview, a way to go to market in a consistent way, and a strategic way that can see across all those things, is where the true value is. And so I think that is changing more. I think companies are building capability, or they're outsourcing it with agencies, or a combination thereof. And I think for our business model standpoint, it is building internal capability across these different areas, and then tapping into partners, whether it's agencies or some of the media companies, or the retail media companies, or data companies, and making sure we're getting best-in-class solutions to support the business.
So, final question.
Yeah.
It's obviously a very exciting time
Yeah.
for marketing. It's also a very challenging one. The marketplace is more fragmented. There's lots of issues around data quality and measurement and transparency. If there's one thing the sellers could get together and fix that would make your life easier, what is that one thing? What would you like the sellers to do differently or better?
I would say align on a structure by which marketers can see across different sellers. I think they're all building off the models of the Googles and Metas of the world, where they're creating their own walled garden to support their own business, which I can appreciate, because they want more business to flow their direction. But from a marketer's lens, the challenge there is that not being able to manage across all these different platforms that are all using different technologies or different measurement solutions, that fit their specific needs. Not having one consistent way to do that creates a huge amount of challenge for our business and any marketer.
Well, here's to fixing that in the next few years.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Great to hear your thoughts.
Thank you.